socialize. And so we're going to spend some time with conformity. We're going to spend some time looking to others for clues on how to behave. And this is a good place to start because our culture tends to look down on conformity, right? We're like, be yourself, right? Be an individual. The reality is our culture really does conform a lot. We really push conformity. And we're not unusual in this regard. We lie about it. I mean, if you want to see a really good way of conformity, clothing is really one of the best. Like if I show up on Friday in a dress, right? There's a sociology professor here who gave credit for if the males would come to class one day wearing a dress and the women had to wear a fake beard. Right? All day, though, right? Did you do that?
No.
Oh, you can wear a fake beard as much as you like. I'm not going to object. Actually, it was really surprising. The females who told me they wore the fake beard found that much harder than the wearing of the dress for the guys. Yeah, I was very surprised.
I feel like that's a double standard thing. So it gets real deep. Women dressing like men and men being dressed like women.
I mean, it isn't the guys got off easy. It's just that apparently if you're a woman and have a lot of facial hair, our culture is like... All right, so we're going to look for, there's going to be many good psychological reasons to conform. So what I want to do today and on Wednesday is set up some experiments on how we just conform. Like we do this all the time. Without even thinking of it, we're like, okay, I'm going to conform. So any questions before? I'm going to give you some really cool stuff today. Try to go, y'all conform. Yes, all right. One way of conforming that we all employ is called social referencing. And to understand social referencing, imagine you are thrown into the middle of a group of people and you see a buffet table over there, so there's food, and you're trying to figure out if you should eat or not. What is one clue that it's okay to go eat? Other people are carrying plates around. They have food, right? But have you ever been in that situation where everyone's just sort of standing around? No one wants to be the first one. What?
That would be the first one.
Oh, I know this, and so I'm like, I'll be the first one because I know everyone else wants to eat, And if I'm first, I get the deviled eggs with the little stuff on top.
Can I just say that happens every time there's a classroom with no window on it, and everyone stands outside and waits for who knows what. There may be a class in there. We don't want to interrupt, and no one will go in until it's like almost late, and then someone's finally like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll check.
It's the exact situation.
That'd be a great example. Everyone's looking to everyone else to go.
Do it.
What do we do? All right, so I need your clickers out because we're going to sort of use some social referencing to see. So this is an example. A friend and I took a hike to Virgin Falls. Anyone been to Virgin Falls in Sparta, Tennessee? You really should. It's an awesome hike backpacking trip. So it's about 5 miles in and then 5 miles out to get to Virgin Falls, and we were carrying about 50 pounds of gear. So I sort of want to set the stage. Oh, that was just, I thought you were like, oh, that's a lot of gear. It's a fair amount of weight to haul in and out. It's up and down hills, and that's y'all's votes. So about a mile in, we find this particular campsite. And so he and I, we have 50 pounds with us. I have 50, he has 50. And we're standing around, and so there's a campsite, and there's a nice running stream of water. And neither of us had ever been there before, so we didn't know what to do. And we pull out our guidebook, and the guidebook says that around 2.5 miles in, alongside the cascading Big Laurel Creek, is a popular camping area for the backpackers not wishing to carry all their gear in. We've got a campsite here. There's running water, there's little stones for us to make a fire. He and I are standing there, and we face this question. Do we carry our gear to the other spot? What do you think? What do you think we should do? It's not now. You give me this look like, what do you think we, should we, because we have a good spot here, right? So, which are the answers? Do we carry or do we stay? Y'all are saying, let's do these votes real fast. Wow, 50-50, awesome. All right, what's the pros and cons?
Kevin, you can stay right there.
What?
Sorry. You can stay right there because nobody has taken it.
So no one has taken it, so okay.
Got everything you need right there.
Got everything I need right there. But what's a reason to move on?
Because the sun dared you to.
What?
How could you not go?
They dared me
The
to?
sun is saying, well, if you don't feel like going further, if your backpack's too heavy, you can stay here.
That's right.
You can go on, and then with all these other.
So not only were they daring us to, but but notice they say, further along is a popular camping area. So we're standing in the
There's
middle.
gonna be something awesome there.
It could be, right? I don't know, right? Like we've never seen either spot, so we don't know. And so the question then becomes: do we take what we have, or do we social reference and potentially get a spot further along? We got to carry our gear there to do this, and the other people seem to enjoy more than this one, right? So that's the dilemma we face. 50-50. I will tell you, we moved along. So there was the original one. So we ended up moving along. There was the campsite we got.
Waterfall.
Yeah, right in front of a really,
Look
really.
at that hammock.
Well, that was his hammock. And this is what I woke up to the next morning.
Yeah, see?
But you see now, but we really face this dilemma. Do we move along? Because we didn't know it was going to be this awesome. We didn't know that we would get to wake up with a waterfall as our front yard. We social reference. We said, well, other people seem to be doing this. Let's follow them along. That's how we follow. All right. So throughout history, this has been a very, very common thing to do. What we often find in many, many cultures is that the minority culture very often assimilates to some degree to the dominant culture. So the minority culture adopts some of the patterns, behaviors, beliefs of the dominant one. So the minority culture adopts the dominant. And this is a process known as syncretism. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples, some interesting examples of syncretism, so that you can see that this is not some sort of unusual, strange thing that's just happening today. It goes on. And it's so common that historian Jerry Bentley calls this conversion through voluntary association. So I'm going to interact with you, and you're in the dominant culture, so I'm going to adopt some of your beliefs, because this will help me out as the minority culture. All right, so what we find is it's often in my benefit, or in people's benefit, to modify their behavior to go along with the dominant culture, right? So we see this quite common. So it's called syncretism. It's where you modify your existing ideals or beliefs to fit the dominant culture. So what I do is, I have time to give sort of one classic example of this, and we can pick this back up on Friday. We find lots of examples from Jewish history. And I'm going to give you one that's one of those that sort of turn out, and you're like, that is like kind of surprising. So if you are familiar at all with the Jewish scriptures, they have several places in the Jewish scriptures, 10 commandments, right? 10 rules that all of us are supposed to follow. And what's intriguing is that if you go back and look at the time period, there was a very, very common type of treaty called the suzerain vassal treaty. Suzerains are kings of an area, and vassals are the people under them. And the suzerain vassal treaties were written in the same form as, anyone want to guess? The Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments, the Jews modeled the structure of the Ten Commandments on the treaty that was common at that time. So you have the preambles like you have in the Jewish epic. Then you have the things that the suzerain would do and the things that the vassal was supposed to do. That's kind of cool. You can go back and I think is the coolest is some archaeologists found a cache of artifacts. So, you know, a collection of artifacts in a cave known as the Cave of Letters. Why it's called the Cave of Letters, sort of beside the point, but they found a bunch of letters there. All right? Now, what's interesting is one of the pans here has inside the pan the Greek goddess Thetis, who was the mother of Achilles. Why would the Greek goddess Thetis be inside a cache of Jewish artifacts that may have been in the Second Temple? Syncretism. And this isn't the only example of this. This is actually really, really cool. What you actually find if you go to Rome, you find this beautiful, beautiful arch called the Arch of Titus, which commemorated Titus's victories in the siege of Jerusalem. And if you look at the Arch of Titus, so pictured here is the Roman soldiers carrying away stuff from the Second Temple, which they had just looted and sacked. So here they are carrying away. And one of the prizes they have is the menorah from the temple. And the menorah has Thetis on it. Syncretism. Awesome. I mean, if you start looking, you go, well, what are other ways that religions have syncretized to the dominant religions in their area? Can you even think of other ways? I'll give you a hint. We'll talk about it on Fry's Day. Well, what does it mean? Think about the days of the week. Where do we get those from?
Norse gods.
Norse gods. We've adopted, that's going to be one of the examples of our syncretism. We'll see that on Friday.